When the young lawyer Abraham Lincoln first set foot in Champaign County, it was muddy. Knee-deep in the Sangamon River, tugging on the horse's reins to lead them through the muck. This is how Abraham Lincoln entered our home county in the early days of the 8th Judicial Circuit Court, a court he traveled with off and on for nearly 20 years of his life. Each spring and fall, he assisted in court cases wherever needed along the route from Clinton to Monticello, Monticello to Urbana, Urbana to Danville, Danville to Paris, and beyond. In those days, the entire court moved from place to place, as many areas had no resident lawyers. The Sangamon River, winding its way through Middletown, now Mahomet, provided a shallow crossing, a ford and rest on its eastern bank for the weary traveler. The Fort Clark Trail was rerouted through the shallow ford at Middletown. It was later to become the Bloomington Road. At that juncture, farmer John Bryan and his wife Melinda opened their home to people taking advantage of the ford, including Abraham Lincoln.
Bryan's home would later become the Ohio Tavern and the Nine Gal Tavern, named after the proprietor's 9 red-headed daughters. And family stories still told remind us of Lincoln's humanity as he visited Champaign County. At the Ohio Tavern, he bounced the innkeeper's baby on his knee. At the Ray Tavern, also in Mahomet, he hit his head on the low ceiling beam. On the far side of the county, Lincoln, Judge David Davis, and other lawyers are known to have stayed at Kelly's Tavern on the west side of the Salt Fork River as they made their way from Urbana to Danville. Here, too, was a shallow area where the Salt Fork was crossed, sometimes by ferry when the river was especially high.
Once a 4-room log building, Kelly's Tavern was where Lincoln first met his Urbana friend and later biographer, Henry Clay Whitney, who said, "We slept 2 to a bed and 8 to a room." Eating and drinking were communal. Meetings were held and votes were taken within the tavern walls, and basic supplies could be purchased for the journey here. For Lincoln, this was particularly crucial. He didn't return home, as many of his fellow lawyers did, but made the whole circuit sequentially. Whitney recorded of his first impression of Lincoln.
"When I first knew him, his attire and physical habits were on a plane with those of an ordinary farmer. His hat was innocent of a nap. His boots had no acquaintance with blacking. His clothes had not been introduced to the whisk broom. His carpet bag was well worn and dilapidated. For an outer garment, a short blue circular cloak, which he kept for 10 years.
This was a man dressed for the road, with no pretensions. He made ready friends in Champaign County and became a well-loved, familiar character here. On May 10, 1841, Lincoln, just 4 years a lawyer, stepped into Urbana's second courthouse, a frame building which replaced the crude log cabin built in 1836. The courtroom was 26 feet square. Outside in the streets, the pigs and chickens ran in the mud. There were fewer than 500 people in Urbana. Among Lincoln's friends in Urbana were innkeepers, lawyers, and clients.
In fact, one innkeeper, Samuel Waters, had moved the cabin courthouse with Asahel Brewer and refashioned it as the Urbana House, where Lincoln stayed with the other lawyers. About Waters, Moses Harvey, a local merchant, wrote in his account book,
"Seen Abe Lincoln run a foot race with Samuel Waters from Main Street to Walnut Street in front of the courthouse. Abe beat."
Lincoln also stayed with John Gear, whose family owned the American House, just west of the courthouse. On June 3, 1855, Lincoln signed their guest book. Once, while Gear's nephew Asa walked out in the country with Lincoln, they came across a team of oxen that were refusing to turn around. Lincoln remembered an old trick from his rural days, tying a knot in their tails. The trick worked, and the oxen knocked Lincoln down. Whitney described the Gears Hotel as
3 front entrances from the street, but not a hall downstairs. Close by the front and dining room doors was kept a gong, which the innkeeper was wont to beat vigorously as a prelude to meals.
It was this very gong which Lincoln stole and hid underneath the false top of one of the tables in the dining room. Eventually, he returned the gong to its rightful place while Whitney held the double doors shut. William Summers, the first resident lawyer in Urbana and longtime lawyer for the Illinois Central Railroad, remembered Lincoln and Judge David Davis as close friends who enjoyed each other's company. Lincoln also knew Thompson Weber, the clerk of courts, whom he called an honest and capable man. It was Thompson Weber to whom Lincoln apologetically wrote, refusing to defend local taxation rights against the Illinois Central here, because he wanted to represent Illinois Central against McLean County. He wrote,
"The question in its magnitude to the company on the one hand and the counties in which the company has land on the other is the largest law question that can now be got up in the state, and therefore, in justice to myself, I cannot afford, if I can help it, to miss a fee altogether."
Thompson Weber was the clerk of courts when Lincoln defended the first man tried for murder in Champaign County as well. According to one local history,
on the 10th day of October 1844, William Weaver of Urbana, a miserable, drunken, reckless wretch, shot David Hiltebrow in the right side with a rifle, without any apparent motive, except the fiendish recklessness that often attends men who have become besotted.
the evidence was overwhelmingly against Weaver, and Lincoln lost. However, Weaver escaped to Wisconsin just a few days before he was to be sent to the gallows. He reformed and lived a peaceful life elsewhere. Most of Lincoln's cases were not murder trials, however. They were civil cases, divorce and personal injury, slander, contracts and land title problems, foreclosures, estate work, and even settling collection disputes. Lincoln represented Simeon Busey in an attempt to recover 160 acres and later helped divide the estate of Charles Busey.
Noted historian Guy Fraker has said, Lincoln was an excellent lawyer, honest and of the highest integrity. His even-tempered, calm demeanor made him exceptional in the most contentious courtrooms of the day. He was known for his economy of style, emphasizing only the strongest points of the case. His ability to relate to the common people is fact, and that rapport carried over to jury.
William Summers characterized Lincoln as a general favorite of all, always taking time to be friendly and to assist young lawyers and inexperienced court personnel. In his months away from home, Lincoln trekked through miles of virgin prairie and forded many Illinois rivers. But he seemed to find a home wherever he went. He certainly was well known and regarded in Champaign County.